Hey guys, Aces up here. Just finished up having some food. Still in some of these tawnies from that I was talking about last part, and just wanted to pick up the action again. Just in the bubble in the top left here, it's a $22 action hour, 18 of 21. Not quite sure how I'm still in there, to be honest. I haven't had many hands and haven't had many opportunities, and I will raise here though, just because of the bubble, and also just because HRF. Yeah, I mean he's pretty tight from the blinds, but he's not that tight versus us from small blind, because he knows we're going to steal at a pretty high frequency. But I still think it's probably okay, but it is pretty close. He's got an awkward stack size, especially for the bubble, where he doesn't really want to jam too light. I think at the same time, if he 3-bets, it's a little bit awkward for him. Not too bad because he's got M9, so he can. But I just think a lot of the time, since it is the bubble, he's probably going to opt just to play slightly on the side of, a little bit on the side of cautious. I think. That particular player. And bottom right is the $22 10k guaranteed. Still a while to go in that one. I did stop registering because it's coming up on the weekend, and I don't want to get too burnt out trying to play a ton of tawnies. I want to be pretty fresh for the weekend. That's the plan. So the $100 rebuy with 36 to 40, top 18 get paid, so kind of getting deep. We did lose a couple of flips and so forth, and stack went down. Oh, getting on the short side now. Top left is pretty close. I don't really want to get jammed on, so I think I'm just going to shove it. The reason why I say I don't want to get jammed on is because since we're 17 of 21 and 18 get paid, if we min and someone jams on us, it puts us in a pretty gross spot where, we should probably really be folding. But at the same time, they might have King Jack, Pocket 2s, Ace 9, all these hands that we have good equity against. And it's a little bit of a deepish jam, but we do have a couple of shorter stacks behind. We had Puan and J Jarov both a bit shorter, probably being a little bit tighter in the bubble. And Respect LT, who has got more chips and could call a little bit more liberally, but still isn't going to get too wild against a sort of M 8-ish whack. It is a fairly deep whack, but I think in that instance it's okay. Bottom right, I'm just going to jam. Any smaller aces, I would probably fold. This guy's raising a lot, stealing a lot, but we don't have a lot of hands on him. But he is almost 2.5xing into some short stacks, which is slightly concerning, because he has to expect to get jammed on at a reasonable frequency. But having said that, I think players at this level, and a player that I have no notes on, is probably still stealing pretty wide, so he should be folding a lot. Ace 8's a pretty good hand for the situation, really, at M sort of 6-ish. If I had Ace Deuce, Ace 3 off, that sort of thing, it'd be pretty borderline. As I said, I might actually fold those in this spot just because we're going to be crushed a lot. or just, not in great shape. But Ace 8, I think, is just getting up above that sort of threshold where we're happy to get it in. And he may even call with, like Ace 4 suited, or, Pocket 3s or some sort of hands like that. King Queen, hands that we have good equity against. So I think I will go again against Jarov. For the same reasons I stated before. I'm pretty close between just jamming and raising. I'm kind of right in between, but like I said, I don't think he's going to get too out of line on us in this instance. This one, I think, oh, wow, okay, Respect 14 for 17. I think I actually will 3-bet this one to fold, which is kind of, let me think about this. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a little bit gross, but Respect is a little bit loose. He probably knows it's the bubble. He probably wants to get aggressive. You know, he's going to be a little bit sick if we 3-bet here and one of the guys behind jams. or respect for that matter. But I just don't think he's going to jam too light here. I mean, we look pretty strong 3-betting a UTG Open in the bubble. I mean, we can definitely be doing it light, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I just think given his range, you know, just given the range that he can have there, opening, in that instance, I don't think he's going to fool around too much and just jam it in. We get really good leverage with our stack size, where he can't really 4-bet light because he virtually commits himself. Although he does do some wacky things from time to time. But in that instance, it was pretty clear that he didn't really have a lot of room to maneuver. At the same time, you know, we didn't have to raise large at all to get a lot of leverage. And in this instance, I think I just fold the Queen 10 against Jarov. We have given ourselves a little bit of a buffer in this bubble now. You know, we were sort of 18 of 20 or 21, whatever it was. Now we have 6. We were 15. Now we're 16. And so we're just sort of, you know, just caressing this bubble like some soft, supple breasts. Just really, we're just trying to, just delicately, just looking, you know, for the right spots and just being careful, but not being too shy about it all, because you've got to be a little bit aggressive in the bubble. I mean, if you are the one to bust, then certainly, you know, if you are short and there's another short stack, I mean, certainly you just want to knit it up and try and survive. But it's just that fine line that we're trying to get now, and this is another good example, you know, where we do, you know, with 16 of 20, we do want to make it into the cash, top 80 and get paid. The first pay level is $101. And 5 here, pretty easy jam. But at the same time, you know, 3-betting here, it is going to cost us a little bit of our stack to do it. But at the same time, I think I'm going to go for it. And if he jams, we just have to fold and hate life. If he jams, we'll be 18 of 20, which is, you know, obviously we hate that. But again, I just think given his, I mean, he could have King 2 here. He can have, you know, Queen 7. I don't think he's jamming hands like that. You could argue that this Ace 5 should just be a jam, you know, a 3-bet jam. And there's certainly a lot of, you know, that's certainly plausible. But at the same time, I don't really think we need to risk M10 to win what's out there. You know, I think we get the job done with just that sort of standard raise size that we did. So when he makes this re-raise now and clicks it back, it looks like he's inducing. He could, because, you know, as I said before, he's a bit wacky. So he could be making a sort of a crazy, let's 4-bet like half the effective stack and then fold if we get jammed on type of play. It's not impossible, and it's not terrible. I think it's not necessary, but he could have been doing that. But more likely, I think he just woke up with a hand and was trying to induce action, trying to make it look like he had a 4-betting fold range, and was probably ready to snap us off if we jammed. If we just jam initially, you know, we avoid all that sort of situation. You know, we just get to avoid that times that you know, he actually does attack us light there. We did just 3-bet him just before too, and I do think Respect is the sort of player that, I mean, he's not too bad. He's a bit fishy, but I do think he's the sort of player that kind of is likely to over-adjust. You know, like, oh, you 3-bet me before, I'm not going to let that happen again, sort of thing. So that's a little bit of a consideration as well. But, you know, he's raising a lot in the bubble, which he should be doing, so he's doing pretty well at the moment. We just got to, like I said, just try and pick our moments, and try to balance accumulating chips with staying alive. And what I've really been trying to do is leverage my stack in a way that if we're wrong, like with the Ace 5, it doesn't necessarily cost us our entire tournament equity. Having said that, this is a pan of 39. We are 19 of 20 now. We've got an M of 8, so we only need a pan of 24. Pocket fours have a pan of 39, so it's just a real fist pump in terms of being able to just open jam it. And I will go ahead and do that. In the bubble against these two, they should be folding pretty tight. So the only player really that's the main concern is Respect, who can afford to, and even he's getting to that point where he can't really afford to call off, and if he's wrong, he's virtually the shortest stack in the tournament, so it's not a great situation in the bubble jamming fours there. If it was a top 18, get a W Coupe main event package, obviously we wouldn't be jamming it, because the point is just to come within 18, any position within 18. But in an MTT like this, there's still a little bit of merit to, like I said, trying to accumulate chips and trying to set ourselves up for more than just a min cash, because of the top heavy pay structure that MTTs have. But at the same time, caching is obviously first and foremost the main priority at this point with this sort of stack size. And just balancing the two. Probably gone on enough, waffled on enough about that, right, guys? But it is really important to just keep that in mind, because it is tough. It is a difficult stage. I think a lot of people struggle with it. But like I said, you just do need to try and find that balance between survival, but not just letting your opponents run over you. And you've seen a couple of examples where I've tried to leverage our stack without committing our whole tournament live. And then in the case of the fours, it was just just too strong to do anything really other than just jam it in the bubble. I might have thought twice if there was just all big stacks behind. If all the players behind had like 80k, I might have been like, okay, let's think about this. But I think with the added benefit of a couple of short stacks that are also under pressure to survive, it made it a little bit easier. And I'll take this one too if it folds to us. We're still 19 of 20, so we still need to think about surviving. This guy's been pretty tight, so I don't know if I'm actually going to jam you, Wombat. Point, this guy in the big blind is the guy that needs to take a stand. He is the shortest. So there's always a sort of a possibility that he decides to take his stand. But having said that, even though he is the shortest, it's not unusual for a couple of bigger stacks to bust. At this point, because they're all trying to put pressure on each other and play aggressively in the bubble, and things can quickly get out of hand when a couple of aggressive players or Russians collide. Top right, 100 rebuy, we're 30 of 33 now, so we've really got to get busy up there, but there's just not a lot of play that we have because we are sitting at around M6, just under, and similar below M5. I will take this. It's pretty close, but I think, it's still pretty 137 of 61, 69. Yeah, I mean, it's slightly profitable, I think, but, well, let's think about 12, 13, 6, 12, 24. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of right on, But you got to remember that the guys behind are probably not calling with the correct ranges, which makes it a little bit more profitable, especially in a $22. I think if it was 100 rebuy, I might not have taken that hand, just because. I mean, we can work it out exactly. We needed a pan of 20. Well, 21 is ace 5 off. So if we just work out our stack size exactly here. well, we can do it right now actually too. Divided by 1530 equals, oh, that one's I think is okay to jam, but 7544, let's just work it out. Let's call it 15, I think it's 1530, right? I think I multiplied before, I did something wacky. So we're only M5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And King Jack has 36, 31, 36? 31, yeah, so, wow. Is he short? That is a really loose call. Yeah, that's a pretty bad call by that player. He's not going to be doing well against our jamming range there with that hand. He's nearly always going to be behind. We don't have many hands there that we would jam. Jack 9 suited and 10 Jack suited are actually hands that I would have, but everything else is, big kings, suited aces, some offsuit aces, and pairs. So a lot of the time we're going to have him crushed like we did. Yeah, that was a pretty wacky call. He may have just seen us jam before and just be like, "Hey, I was going to play this hand. I'm in a small blind with Jack Queen off. That's pretty good. I'm just gonna call now, spike call." So yeah. But if players are calling really loose like that, it's another interesting factor to consider, is adjusting your jam ranges if that's the case, and especially if it's the bubble, because the thing about PN is if your opponent's calling very loose, then the PN is, hands have strength, so they actually increase the showdown. You're probably going to bust more, but you're going to increase your showdown value. And if they're playing too tight, then they're going to fold more. You pick up more chips that way. True, when they call, you're going to be in worse shape, but it's kind of a trade-off. And so PN, any way you look at it, is always obviously profitable, unless you're talking about bubble, and then you have to alter your ranges depending on your opponents, what they're doing. So Ace Jack here at M5. And we are in the money, so top left, so that's good. That did sort of jump along pretty quick there, as I said it might. So the Ace-5, I won't go through all that. We just sort of saw the King Jack was an easy jam. The Ace-5, though, was kind of right on. And so just going back to what I was saying, if their players are calling loose, and that's another kind of loose call, I think. And we just cannot. This has just been December so far. It's just, we cannot win a hand. And I think we have to take this now because we're just so short. That would have been a nice little pot for us there. Seeing 4 is 20. I think I'm going to fold the King 6. It's pretty close. Yeah, I just really struggle to win these pots end stage, and it's just really costing us this month. To just need a little bit of run good at the this end stage. The poker gods are gonna give us the M1 double up, just just to rub it in, just to toy with us. They're gonna give us the Queen 3 M1 double up, just to prolong the pain. They're just nasty. There's no other word for it. The poker gods are just nasty. I think I will fold here. We actually am 18, 5, 23. So we're actually almost M3. I'm going to fold here. We do have a little bit of stack behind, even though there's a lot of dead money out there. Compared to our stack. Probably going to be a little bit harder to fold this one, especially against a button open. How do we want to play this? Do we want to raise or just jam? 2, 4, 6, 7, 14, 21. I think we can just raise. Probably going to have a hard time folding this, but we'll see. And the poker gods. That's what you have to do. Complain and then they reward you. I think I'm going to fold the 7s here. It's pretty close. We've got a semi-loose player min-raising with a short stack from UTG. I don't really like it. It just smells a little bit. He is, I mean, he's not that loose. He's raising 17 from early and 16 from mid. He does steal a lot. He does have a stack size where he could be actually stealing from there. You know, it's a stack size that I like to use as a steal from there, from early, because it looks strong. It's hard to combat with 3-bets. But I think we just got chips. Let's just hang on to them for a little bit before we get punished again. I think calling here is okay. I think jamming is not that bad, but I think I prefer to call. But it's pretty close. I mean, we could jam. This guy's a little bit wide from there for sure, and our hand has some decent equity. I think it was King 9 suited, I would just jam, but probably King 9 suited and better, and suited aces, and Ace 5 off, and Ace 8 off. Up, and any pair, Jack Queen, 10 Jack suited up, that sort of range, probably in that spot. Something around there. I mean, his raise first in from cutoff is 26, button 38. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't steal, I guess, compared to sort of the norm. It doesn't really steal that wide. Pocket 10s, I think just jamming is best. Yeah, I don't actually even think I have a raise folding range from here. Like, I just don't think I do have a range that raise folds. I think I'm always just jamming or folding. It's kind of pretty close though. It's pretty borderline. M5 here with the Queen 10, easy jam. Especially given the fact that it's short-handed, you know, blinds are coming around quick. This is right around the point, you know, January 13 bigs and up is about where you want to start considering raise folding. The reason, and this is a classic example because we're M6 here, so we need a PN of 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, but Ace 8 only has 24. You know, so Ace 8 is not profitable to jam, but at the same time, you've got a reasonably nice hand that you kind of want to play. So it's very close, but I am going to fold it with 5 players behind. I think the King Jack suited top left, I mean, even if Wombat raises, I'm just going to just jam this one in. First in, easy jam with that stack depth. It would have been interesting if Wombat minned, if there's anything else we could have done other than just jammed. You know, like, can we ever, you know, just like 3-bet and look extra strong? Or can we ever just get there with a flush? The poker gods have just said, well, look, screw you. We're going to make you look lucky. And from now on, let's just go on a roll, shall we? Let's do this. Let's just go on a roll now, guys. And we're 5 of 15. Let's just maintain this. It's been a long time between drinks, as they say. Not quite sure how that applies, but you can use your imagination. But I think I'm talking about the fact that we haven't been winning a lot of flips in recent times. Of course, you know, I haven't brought you the whole session today, so it's easy to say that. You know, I brought you a couple of parts, and yeah, just you have to take my word for it, I guess, that there's been fatalities and brutalities and babalities all happening while I've been playing that you haven't seen.
Sub-Zero wins.
Yeah, I'm pretty battered right here. See if we can go on a roll with this little stack of ours here. Okay, Jareb hasn't really been opening that much. It's definitely a spot where you can consider a cheeky one, a cheeky 3-bet. Or a jam for that matter, but I think this is pretty close. 25. 25. I think I am going to do it. I think with this sort of hand, it's not too bad to be doing it because this guy's stealing a decent frequency. You know, I am 3-betting a fold, which is pretty gross against an M8 open, but you know, you saw the sort of leverage we got even with just a small 3-bet, and the fact that this guy steals a lot too. I mean, I kind of just felt like he was going to snap fold, to be honest. And the thing is that we're going to make that raise size with a lot of inducive hands, like, you know, ace-10 suited up, and even like 8s up, and, you know, so, you know, ace-10 off even, I would probably do that. Yeah, ace-10 off up, and I think I just jam here. And around 7s or 8s up, probably 8s up. I'll probably do a small inducer, so it's not like it's that polarizing, you know, because there's a lot of hands that we're going to call off with. Ace-6 off is an 18 PM, but ace-6 suited is 28. We do have the M7 here, so we need a PN of 21. Puts us in a really sort of close situation. And I think now with 14-ish bigs, I am actually going to raise and contemplate here. It's a really kind of little micro play. There's a downside and there's an upside. The downside is if this guy just jams on us here with like King Jack, you know, which he might, or like 4s. Pretty good spot top left. I think he's got ace-10. What do you guys think he's got? It's either ace-10 or 6s. Take your pick. Red 6s or ace-10 off. That's one or the other. Kings, nice read. 3 ball. 3 ball. Damn. Way off. Way off. I thought it was a good spot. Turned out to be not so good. But, yeah, generally that's going to be a pretty good spot. AJR short. You know, looking to 3-bet jam with that stack size. Probably doing it with a ton of worse aces and King Jack, Jack Queen, 10 Jack suited. Smaller pairs. I don't think he 3-bets probably not as wide as some rakes would, but I think he's a little bit more solid, but they're certainly very capable. This one here looks pretty nutty on the right side, but you know, the alternative of just shoving at this M8-ish stack is just a little bit too much, I think. I mean, it's a semi-dangerous board. I don't want to just like bet tiny or anything like that, you know, because he could defend wide. You know, he could have like 4-5 suited, 5-6, 6-7, 7-8, 8-9. He could have a flush draw. He could have gutses, where he has like, you know, ace-5 suited, ace-5 of clubs. I don't know if he calls ace-5 off against the short stack UTG Open just for fear of domination. But, you know, I don't know too much about Nick, but he seems on the tighter side. But I think suited, he's probably going to have a little peak. And, you know, that's just there, you know, that's what I was saying, why sometimes you can steal, you know, if we have ace-2 here on open UTG with an M... Well, we would have had M6 and a bit. It's getting pretty shallow for it, but it looks pretty nutty. And this time it actually was nutty. I think players, particularly at this stack depth, are a little bit... I mean, they're definitely going to think, oh, this could be the nuts here. Because he's short, so he's playing more of a raise-fold game and generally looking for a good spot to jam it in. So why is he just opening UTG? I mean, he's certainly not doing it with, like, Jack-9 suited sort of thing. So it's a kind of polarizing open, if that makes any sense. It's either ace deuce to snap fold to a jam, or it's the big tamale like it was. Jack queen suited. No, we just spoke about this guy before because he's on the other table, and he raises 12% from early, and he's got a lot of decent players behind and a lot of stacks that might be looking to jam on him. I think I'm going to fold here. I think we're dominated a little bit too often, but it's certainly very close. You could argue for calling it. Lucky we folded because D Quang has woken up with jacks. Ace Jack. Wow, that's, you know, that we are dominated like I said we might be, and I don't really like the Ace Jack suited jam there. I mean, people are going to say, oh, it can't be that bad, he's only M6, but you got to look at your openness raise. I mean, a 12% range from early from UTG, early raising range 12, and how are we going to play this, mate? I think we're actually going to raise. It's 23. Uh-oh. 23. What do we, I just want to see what we've got left behind here. Oh my lordy, lordy! I'm really having problems working a calculator today. It's an exploitable weakness. Lucky I've got a time bank. What did I say was in there? 23. Someone was in there. M7-ish left behind. I think checking here because I just think this is just too much of his range here. It's like King 8 suited, Jack 9, Queen 9, Queen 8 suited, 8 10. He's probably got double belly, probably calling, King X suited. Having said that, he has checked again, but I think I'm going to check and try and, you know, we've got the guts, so the ace might be good. Pretty close one now. He may have semi-bluffed with a 10, but he could have Queen 10 and not mind giving away free cards. Just thinking if he folds pairs here. Does he fold Queen 8 to a bet? Does he fold a 9? If he's got 8, 9, does he fold? I think he might think we would semi-bluff as well with a 10. Might just check back, and that's one hand he probably actually folds, but we're pretty polarized if we check to the river and then bet. You know, we're only really repping a 10. And I think it's a spot where he might hero a fair bit. I do think he might hero a bit there. Because, you know, we might bet the flop with a 10. If we got an up and down, we might just bet. So it looks kind of like we've got ace X or just like some trashy hand, like 5-7. And we're just trying to buy it. This is what I think anyway. But having said that, I mean, it's still hard to call on that board. Even if you think your opponent might be full of it, because, well, I mean, with his sort of hand, it's just the worst board ever. This is one of those spots where you're just praying the action gets to you first, but it hasn't, and it's been jammed. And it's an M8 jam, so I think this is a pretty easy fold. You know, you've seen me raising a bit with this stack depth, which can make things a little bit awkward. Big Oots has opted to just shove it, and he doesn't really have any worse aces there. You know, he's not shoving ace 9. His best case scenario there is he's got you know, King Queen suited, but even that I'm not sure he jams. I think he's got ace Jack, ace Queen, ace King a lot. Maybe 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, Jacks, something like that. And he's just decided he's just going to play it as a shove rather than just open with it. Most likely. But, you know, if he has no idea about jamming ranges, then I could be wrong. But I do believe that he's a pretty good player and is likely to have a pretty good knowledge of jam ranges. And therefore, you know, he's not going to jam even ace 9 suited. It's a PN of 50. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. Even an ace-9 suited there is borderline, like break-even virtually. And I don't think he's going to just jam it. I mean, that would be pretty bad, just jamming M8 with ace-9 suited from second with 6 players behind as a break-even play. I mean, you're definitely going to find much better spots than just jamming it, even though technically it's kind of a border break-even play. And so I think he's got the same sort of hand as us, ace-10 or better, or maybe some medium to bigger pairs. And in the case of the pairs, even sixes is a pair of 51, so that's again getting close to break-even territory. So it's kind of either we're crushed by a bigger ace or we're flipping. And we still do have, 3, 4, 5 players behind that could always wake up with ace-queen or better that decide to get involved and have us crushed as well. So it's just a bad spot and best to fold. But we are kind of short, so it was a bit tempting. And we are also very short on the left now, only M3 and 11 of 12. But I'm feeling a heater coming. And so I'll keep recording and see how these ones finish up after this break.